So digital rotoscoping, here's the definition. I just got off the internet, and I don't even know who wrote this definition. Rotoscoping is a traditional animation technique which animators trace the outline of characters as they go through movements that are too difficult for the animator to draw freehand. Well, I have another slightly different definition. And my definition is rotoscoping is to make a smooth outline that perfectly follows the edge of a shape as that shape moves through time. And that's basically what we're doing here in effects animation. We're picking something out and we're making a shape where the edge of the shape corresponds to the outline of the object. And then I have another caveat that's to do so with a minimum of effort. The goal is they don't pay you for working hard, they just pay to get the job done. So you want to try and do this as expediently as possible also, because and there's different strategies for doing roto that you can make your job much more difficult and much easier. In fact, one of the problems is introducing noise yourself as you're going through, and we'll talk about that a little more. There's two main elements to a rotoscoping system. The first is making the shapes, and the second is rendering the shapes. And in general, rotoscoping is pretty simple in the sense that there's not a lot of options, and it's pretty clear cut what you do. In most digital systems, there's two main ways of creating shapes, and those tools are either a Bezier spline or what's called a B-Spline. And I'm more familiar with Bezier curves, and that's pretty much what I use exclusively, only because mostly I work in ER and that's all that's available. But a Bezier curve is defined, and I actually have the mathematical definitions, but I'm not sure I understand it. So this is the most simple Bezier curve, and it has four characteristics. And that is two endpoints with handles. This is the handle. And the length of the handle influences the nature of the curve. And so it's 2 points, 2 handles, and you get a curve. If you have no handles at all, then you're just going to get a straight line. It just connects in a straight line. So the most simple Bezier case is just linear connecting the points. And if you have a really complicated shape, start getting something like this, and depending on how your handles are set up, or maybe you can break the handles in some case. But it basically, as you pull the handle out, you get more of a curve. And intuitively, when you work with a system making Bezier curves, you get a sense really fast how to control the curve. The other type of curve is a B-Spline. And systems like Matador or Commotion have B-Splines. B-Spline is a polynomial that's a little bit different. The Bezier curve always goes through the points, always goes through the control point. But the B-Spline is a little bit different because it goes through the control point at the beginning. And if you start at that endpoint and draw a B-Spline like that, and then this is the point that's influencing the curve, but it never touches. So the higher order of magnitude you have for this point, the more smoother and rounded this will actually imagine. I guess it doesn't really matter. And the lower order of magnitude you'll have, the sharper you'll have, and the closer it'll come, more approximate a corner like that. And in most of the systems, there's a more smoother. Like in Matador, you have 3 different settings for the influence for the point on the curve, and you can set it point by point. And in a more complicated, like a closed B-Spline curve would look something like this, where it doesn't touch any of the points. That's actually supposed to be rounded there. But I don't have the drawing skills that someone came up in the old school has. You'll just have to bear with me. And this would be a B-Spline that's for a closed shape, and it never touches the points. And again, with the lower order, it would be more pointy, and with the higher order, more rounded. One of the problems with B-Splines is doing hard, sharp corners, or any animate things like cities with straight lines. One of the advantages of B-Splines I hear is that it's better for doing organic materials, flowing materials, leaves, things like that, that are naturally more organic. So that's it. Those are the basic tools you have for building a shape, and you use these two curves to build an initial shape. And then to do a roto, you want to animate that shape through time. Now there's two basic ways of approaching actually masking an object, because you have to set up your shot before you actually start animating. And the one way, and this is the way that most beginners do, and I call it the Gingerbread Man. And this is where there's a man there and they say, okay, well, and again, bear with my drawing skills. I'll just outline his head, and then I'll go and I'll catch his arm right here, and then I'll go down and catch his other leg, and he's got a foot, go up, and of course, this is one of our cartoon characters. And then when they're all done, they have some kind of a gingerbread man like that. It's one big shape. This shape is really difficult to work with. And even for hands, you don't really, now, you may want to do this if you have to do morphing or something, but that's another story. Really a better technique than doing a big shape like that is to make smaller shapes for each of your parts of the man. So you'll actually have like this for the torso. Shape. I usually do one shape for the arm, shape for the hand, and you get the idea how you isolate the smaller shapes. And you may even want to do like half sides of the face, two halves for each side of the body to make it easier. Do you have any questions?
And the reason to do that is?
To do halves?
Yeah,
oh, the reason to do shapes is
shapes change, right?
Shapes change, it's faster. And it's, the key again is to do it as expediently as possible. Make as little work for yourself, because and it's much easier. Say for example, and this is the whole reason. You've got some guy and his hand is swinging like this. He's walking, his hand is swinging behind his body. If you have one big gingerbread shape, every time his hand comes out, you're going to have to take all the points on the edge of this shape, conform it around his hand coming out, and then as his hand goes back, conform all the points so it matches the edge of his body. But if you have a separate shape for the hand, you can just swing that shape along with the hand. You don't really have to change the shape of the body at all. So just by planning your strategy, you've made your job a lot easier.
And you can also take a shape and move it off to the side.
Right, and if you don't need it, you can move it off to the side. The other advantage to working like this is, say you have a fix. And this is a big part of what Roto is. And in certain shots, so we'll get into that. Say you have to fix something. The side of his face is all going in like this. You just missed it. It's not lit very well. You're not following it. When you play it back, you test it. It's just all over the place. But the rest of the Roto is perfect. So if you have one big gingerbread man, you're going to have to adjust every shape and every keyframe. But if you have all these separate shapes, you're already 90% of the way there. All your other shapes are perfect. And all you have to just concentrate on is this one shape here. Maybe you'll delete it and start over. But you have much less chance of affecting all your other work that's good. And that's another really good reason to use separate shapes. Plus it's faster. So if you're doing Roto, I advise you to think about that. But everyone develops their own kind of style of what they like and what they're familiar with.